Hello, everyone. Hi, good afternoon. Everyone can hear me? All good? All right. So a very good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining my session, right? So this is a session to share with you what we do at SHRDC, the Selangor Human Resource Development Center, with regards to our enhanced training and talent development training programs, right? So let me just put up my screen for everyone to have a look, right? Everyone see my screen in full screen, hopefully, right? All good? All right. So a very good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much to the OpenLearning team for the invitation for us to share with you all regarding SHRDC's enhanced technology training experience, right? So my name is Dr. Chua, and I represent the Malaysian Smart Factory 4.0 at the Selangor Human Resource Development Center. So SHRDC, we are almost 30 years old, right? Next year we will turn 30, right? And throughout these 30 years, right, we have been doing a lot of talent development programs, right? A lot of talent development initiatives in the nation, right? And we run basically primarily technical training programs, right? Technical training programs. So a lot of hands-on, a lot of competency-based training programs to suit the industry needs and to bridge the talent gap between the universities and industries. So when we started to embark on our journey with OpenLearning, this was actually a year plus ago, almost 2 years already. We started off with the idea of translating or moving some of our technical training programs to the virtual environment, right? However, of course, the key question that we always ask on, or more or less my management always asks, is that how do I translate a technical training to a virtual kind of concept, right? And the idea of going beyond simulation was something that many of us were not sure about, right? And when we started to embark on our journey with OpenLearning, that's when the pandemic hit, right? And that was when we needed to actually move faster, right? We needed to actually innovate faster. And that brought us to where we are today, right? When we started our remote online training facility. We have been running this for almost a year plus already, right? And I'm very happy to share with everyone here today on what we have done, right? And how we have done it. And of course, how we intend to open up, to wider community through the OpenLearning and also our remote training facility, right? So under the Malaysian Smart Factory, we run a lot of technical training programs. And the idea of our technical training programs are designed to meet industry needs and challenges, right? So we design programs to suit what the industry would require, right? And it's really unique programs because it's Malaysian made, I would say, right? Whereby we look at industry problem statements and then we sort of package it as a technology program. And this knowledge transfer delivered through technical training programs have seen real results from industry adoption, right? So getting industries to do technical training is already a challenge. What more moving it into a remote online training? So when we talk to many industries and we tell them, okay, right now it's an uncertain time. It's we previously we had phases of lockdowns, and some of us have to work from home primarily, or even for businesses, it's only running at 30% and so on. So this was a time where we told or we share with industry, this is actually a great time for you to learn, right? Even though you're working from home, you should learn, right? And this working from home sort of area sort of helped many people to sort of upskill. And we wanted to ensure that the industries continue to, develop their skills during these difficult times. So what we have done in our technical training programs for Smart Factory specifically, we have sort of break it down into components level, right? Whereby it goes like a bite-sized strategy. So we talk about micro-credentials, these are very, very similar concepts, right? Whereby we talk about building blocks of technology. So if you want to do a certain task, or if you want to do a certain project related to data collection, then go to level 1, right? If you want to do certain tasks that's related to data visualization, go to level 2, right? And once you're done, move on to level 3, level 4, and then level 5 for analytics, and then eventually move ahead to level 6, which is artificial intelligence. So it's more of a bite-sized approach of how we have designed our programs, and therefore it's easily palatable for many industries. So when we design our programs, we design it in a structure where it follows this bite-sized approach. And the idea would be that, whatever skills or whatever technical competencies that they have gained from these programs would eventually translate to actual implementation in their factory environment. So it's not just going through a program and say, hey, I have done this program, I have gone through this, and I have gotten a certificate, but you go back and then you don't do anything, right? Or you don't know what to do. So the whole idea of moving, of developing our technical training program is with the objective as well to improve the talent upskilling initiatives within the industry, and also to encourage lifelong learning and continuous professional development for the industries. Because this is an important aspect, especially when it comes to future skills or future technologies, that we need to keep on, emphasizing to the industry that, technology is not just a plug and play, it is a continuous learning experience, it is a lifelong learning experience, and we need to continue to upskill ourselves, to move forward. And that's where the bite-sized approach came in. Now, we have seen many industries that have adopted this approach and have successfully developed their own teams. They successfully sort of, implemented some of the systems. Now, the key question is now, how do we translate what was physical to a virtual or remote training kind of experience? So that brought us to innovate even further, right? Our team sort of sat down and we sort of went through, okay, what can we really do to make that kind of technical training experience worthwhile for the industry and also worthwhile for the people that we teach, right? Because we are a training center or talent development center, and if you look at the national, you look at the national recovery plans, the ones that will go and start first are usually the manufacturing industries, right? And the education and the training and the learning industries are usually not at the very first phase to start, right? Because we require people to gather, we require people to come on site at certain times, right? So we needed to be in operation, we needed to still support the industries, and that's where the team sort of sit down and say, hey, this is one way that we can do it, let's try. So what we have done was a more, more unique approach towards technical training, right? It's not just doing Microsoft Teams, put a camera in front of you and say, okay, this is how we do it. Make sure you remember how to do this kind of program, and that's about it, right? Nor do we just focus on using simulation tools and that's that, right? So we sort of link it together, right? We have Microsoft Teams, you have Zoom, Google Meet, any platform that you want to use. Package it together with collaborative training platforms like Miro, Mentimeter, anything at all, right? And coupled with OpenLearning, which is a really great platform for us to sort of host our materials, sort of host our progression board. We can see people progressing, we can see people communicating, we can see people on the site doing certain things. Right now, how do we then branch out even further to communicating with our equipment, realizing the sense of feel that you are actually using the equipment, right? So what we have done is we set up what we call as a remote online training facility, right? And this remote online training facility is whereby you can actually interact with the actual machines, not simulation at all. Right? It's not simulation. You can interact with the actual machine. It's as if you are there, just that you are not able to physically sort of touch the machine, not at least at this time. right? Or maybe in the future, you never know, right? Technologies are improving so quickly. People talk about robotic surgeries nowadays, right? Whereby you're 100 kilometers away and you can still perform a robotic surgery. This is exactly the same concept, right? You are actually doing the remote training remotely, right? And we have sort of put it as a facilitated approach because we see that, at the end of the day, self-paced learning has its own limitations. And we needed to ensure that the learners don't lose motivation, right? And because resources are also tight, right? When we talk about remote online training facility, if we have 100 people, we have to manage the resource carefully, and that's why we needed to sort of have dedicated days of facilitation between the trainer and also the participant that join the program, right? So the structure of it is utilizing OpenLearning as the main platform of learning, right? Whereby students, participants from the industry can use OpenLearning as sort of like their assembly manual. If you think about it, it's like an assembly manual, right? You have materials, you have step-by-step guides, you have loads of knowledge that people can follow. And when they go through the materials, it's like reading a storybook, right? Or for the industry, it's like reading an assembly manual, right? Do A, B, C, D, E, right? And the trainer will be there to support the students or participants 9 to 5 throughout the day, right? And they will answer questions that they have. They talk to the participants. In some ways, you will realize that some participants actually move faster because in a way there is a blend of self-paced and also facilitated. So those that are very, very, comfortable with online learning, they're comfortable with reading and directly translating what they read to actual hands-on programming or competencies, they have no problem to progress further. But there are also people that are not progressing fast enough, right? So that's where, in a way, this facilitated approach also provides a more dedicated, facilitation to those learners that require help, right? And our learners age group range from, the 20s, the 30s, and even the 40s, right? So there's a very diverse range of people that join our programs. Because we do a lot of upskilling for industries, and that's where we need to take care of all the different industry participants, the diverse group of audience that we have to ensure that everyone is able to progress, right? So trainers will monitor progress of participants because OpenLearning has a progress bar. We can know how far they have gone, whether they have actually seen any of the materials. Sometimes they don't, right? And that's a challenge, right? When we work on this kind of facilitated approach. But nonetheless, once the participants finish a 9 to 5, they have access to OpenLearning platform, I believe 24 hours, right? I've never sort of seen a downtime before, hopefully not, right? And this allows people to sort of refer to materials post-training, right? Which I think is a very, very good concept, right? And this is how we want to continue to develop people, regardless of whether or not they are within the normal training duration or post-training support, right? Now, the question would be, how does the participants then interact with our remote online training facility? So what we do is, in SHRDC, we have a lab whereby we have dedicated to have our equipment all lined up. There are cameras monitoring the equipment. It's all provided with a computer access. PC access can be from anywhere in SHRDC. Why? Because it is all connected within the same network. So the network architecture allows us to sort of, outline, let's say if a PC resource is not available, we just switch it, right? Or let's say that PC is down, we can just switch it. So this concept then allows us to remotely monitor people doing their tasks from the machine. The trainer can, of course, log in and see what they're doing. Students will log in just with a browser. They are already with the machine, right? And they can do any of their programming. They can do any of their activities. They can do any testing on the machine test out their codes, test out their developments, and it will just be seen through the camera, and they can do it from the comfort of their home. They can do it at the comfort of their office or even their factories, right? And this only requires a browser for them to access. That's all. A browser and internet connection, right? And this also push away any form of requirements for you to have like a high spec PC, right? So some people, they don't have very high specification PCs. They don't have very, very high spec PCs, but it doesn't matter. Just use our facilities. You can connect to it. You have high speed internet, everything is stable. You can just do it as if you're right in front of the machine, right? Only thing is the touch and feel of the machine is not there, but nonetheless, other sensors, right? For example, your visual sensors, everything are all there. You can see the machine live that's happening. And of course, the next thing is interacting with the machines, right? You want to be able to interact with it. We have developed control mechanisms whereby you can press buttons, you can press, certain interfaces, user interfaces that we have developed, and you can see things moving directly on the machine as if it's live right in front of you, right? And this provides a more enhanced experience for learners because they know that what they have programmed, what they have done, is actually for an actual machine. And this actually was very important for industries because for industries, they don't really agree with simulation-based kind of tools, right? They want things that are practical. They want things that are highly, that you go right to the hardware to use, and this is important for them because they are very, very practical people. And for us, it's also important for participants and students to work with actual hardware because this then gives them the enhanced experience to utilize any form of the hardware. They are working directly with it and they can apply their skills, whatever that they have learned, directly to the factory operations, right? So over the months or a year plus since we have started doing remote online training facilities for the workforce, this is how it sort of looks like now. We have upgraded our lab, from 10 machines or 10 equipment. We now host 42 equipments in our site, right? And we're actually building more. Why? Because we are looking at a projection of advancing to not just within the peninsula, but beyond the peninsula of Malaysia, maybe in the states of Sabah, Sarawak, and even Southeast Asia. Why not? Because all you need is internet connection, right? And you need to have internet connection and the right people to go through the program. And I think that's also possible, right? And throughout this year of working on this remote online training, debugging, testing, validating, we have successfully trained over 100 plus participants, right? At the point of this article that we did jointly with OpenLearning, it was around 101. Now we have even more. We have successfully trained over 31 organizations, right? 31. And 650 cumulative training hours, run 100% program satisfactory. A lot of times there are, of course, some hiccups that we have, especially due to internet connectivity. Sometimes the infrastructure in Malaysia, not specifically our center, but the infrastructure in certain areas are not the best. So therefore, you experience some lag. When it starts to have a thunderstorm outside, you will notice your internet connection starts to slow down. This will affect the experience, but of course, that's where we work on different mitigation methods to manage that remote online training facility so that it's still a good experience for them. So they can do their work on the remote online facility, or they can also do it on their PC. It's really up to them. But we also provide ways of connectivity to the machine regardless of what's actually happening, right? So this allows us to sort of manage the training more effectively. And we are continuously trying to embark further on this platform as well, right? So remote online training is part of the innovation that we have at the Smart Factory. We have a physical factory over here. if you want to come and see how the remote online training looks like, you are welcome to come and see. We're happy to host you to have a look, right? It's not as fancy as a very, very nice center whereby there's a very, very high-tech stuff, but it's humble enough whereby we were able to get it functional, right? We were able to sort of, deliver that program, and we sort of are able to still ensure that people successfully carry out their training and talent development during these difficult times. And moving forward, like we have seen many companies that have gone through this program remotely. Just this morning, we had an industry sharing of their recent successful project completion. And this company actually went through entirely their training remotely, and they were able to apply the skills and finish their project. That to me is amazing, right? Because you are applying skills that are learned online beyond simulation. You interact with the machines, you interact with the equipments, and you're able to apply whatever that you have learned. That is really, really good for me, right? Personally. And if you really want to experience how remote online training is done, you can join any of our programs. We have still some December sessions upcoming. Right now, we are also have tie-in with Malaysian Board of Technologies to provide CBD Hours. So if you're looking for CBD Hours, that's the place to go, right? And we continuously want to engage with more and more people. We believe that this is a good way of technical training. Of course, we are still innovating more and more ideas on how to improve it, right? And this is one of the methods that we are focusing to improve on our facilities, and we are growing that so that more and more people can enjoy this facility moving forward, right? So with that, that's basically what I have in terms of my sharing. I'm open to any questions that you have, and I think can see that there are some feedback on the chat, right? Is there any Q&A? Any questions, right? More than happy to answer them. Okay, so let's see. Based on your journey on going to hybrid, from Julius, right? Based on your journey on going to hybrid, what would be the top 2 to 3 key lessons learned for the organizations that want to embark on this, from design to implement to facilitation and running the sessions? All right. Now, the key lessons learned, I would say, is that you should have real ownership over the platforms that you use, right? Because when you start to deliver remote online training like this, there are bound to be a lot of hiccups, right? Especially when you need to get systems up and running, where you need to get participants satisfaction rate engaged. You need to have ownership over the platform. You need to be able to access, to make changes, to make setups, to make configurations on the go, right? And when you design systems like this, there needs to be a very thorough mindset mapping or program mapping to what the users would feel, right, when using this platform. So that's why in the initial stage, we were a bit conservative. I will also share that we were a bit conservative. We actually did a pilot run first with students. This was with IEEE Malaysia. Thankfully, they were, they believe in our concept and they wanted to try a pilot. We sort of went through a pilot program with them. So with this pilot, we sort of outlined all the potential issues and problems that would happen when we go live as a remote online training. So I will always say start with a proof of concept first, test it out. When you see all the issues, that's when you start to solve it, right? And probably the third thing would be, to really plan and project and anticipate what your learners would feel, right, when they go through this program. So it's not easy, I would say, but rather it's a very fulfilling journey to move from a physical training environment to now a remote online training environment. Of course, when things start to open up, people still would like to have a face-to-face training, but I think eventually, that they have options, and this is what we wanted to provide to them, right? So next question from Sophia. now that face-to-face is returning, what is your business model moving forward? Will you be maintaining remote? Yes, we will still maintain remote online training as an option for many industries that would like to continue doing remote. I think there's still a 50-50 of people that are okay with doing a remote, okay with doing a face-to-face training, but there are still that 50% that are a bit still cautious when it comes to face-to-face training, right? So we are maintaining remote online training still for now, unless of course our customers or participants would really want a face-to-face session, right? So remote online training, I believe, is here to stay. That's why we are actually increasing capacity of our stations, right? There was a point of time, the last few months, continuously for 3 months, I think it was fully booked. Like every single station was fully booked, and I mean, for me, it's amazing, right? To see that, and in fact, my team were telling me like, okay, if it's going to be on 24/7 and non-stop kind of training programs, even our machines don't get to rest, right? And we needed to have some form of preventive maintenance time for our machines as well, to update them, to sort of do some maintenance. So I see it as still a continuous business model, especially as we are going to move towards micro-credentials soon. And we're talking very closely with the OpenLearning team, working with them on translating, open cracks to technical training. It's not easy, I would say, because of the structure of technical training, but I think we are slowly making progress, and we would also start with a pilot, see how it works, and then, innovate from there. Okay. Right. So what has been the feedback from your learners or client in your hybrid model? I think from the hybrid model, people are encouraged. They actually are willing to try, right? And most importantly is that they are able to apply what they have learned. So a lot of industries or customers that we have worked with, they are able to apply what they have learned, right? They were able to pass the assessments that we provided to them, right? Because at the end of the remote training, we always have an assessment, a hands-on assessment for them to do, right? And our passing criteria is minimum 75% to get a certificate of competency. So most of them they pass, right? So means that they are actually learning effectively through the program, right? And when they go back, they start to think about, okay, what projects can I do? What can I actually implement in my factory? And this is something that we see as a good progress, right? Of course, there are good learners. There are also some learners that are not that easy to go through with during a remote online training session. So those learners, of course, it takes a bit more time and patience, but I believe that the experience is very different for a lot of them. A lot of feedback came back whereby they say that they have never known that technical training can be done this way, right? And that was a very positive feedback because, it's beyond simulation. It's beyond just one way. It's really doing something throughout the whole 6 days that you are there, right? And some of the feedback also included like things like they never felt more busy doing a remote training than compared to just listening to online lectures every day, right? And sometimes motivation starts to decrease when you just go through a purely self-paced program. To be very frank, even if I go through a self-paced program, if I'm not doing anything hands-on, I may just put that as my lowest priority and probably do something else, right? If there's no fixed deadline, if there's no fixed hands-on sessions that I need to join, that's when the motivation starts to decrease. That happens, right? Because all of us have ways of time management in the day. But if you dedicate your time, if you really focus and you really do a dedicated hands-on every day, you really see the difference, right? And that's how the hybrid approach that we have sort of helps them to move forward faster, right? Okay, how do you manage different expectations from different learners from Julius, right? Example, fast learners, slow learners versus techie learners, right? Now, our program surprisingly, right? Surprisingly, I will share, really surprisingly, came from diverse backgrounds of people, right? It came from diverse backgrounds of people. And we have people coming from engineering background, non-engineering background, even accounting, right? Can you imagine an accountant doing a technical training program? And we designed the program in such a way where it's a very guided approach, right? You can do it on your own if you follow the materials, right? It's that straightforward, right? But of course, if you do need some help, that's where our trainers come in, right? They will help the not so fast learners to help them progress through. For the faster learners, if they have questions, they have new ideas, go ahead, try. I mean, our trainers will give them to try new things, to tell them, okay, you have done this here, why not you try something new? What if you change this a little bit? But that is really for those fast learners. And maybe out of a class, you will probably get maybe out of a 10%, you probably get maybe 1 or 2, right? A 20% out of the class, right? The rest of them, they are progressing, right? Less techy learners, they can definitely learn if you give them a step-by-step approach, right? And that's how our programs are designed, step by step, right? Learn how to walk in a small baby steps first, right? And then once you get the concept, once you get the flow, right, it's almost automatic that you can continue, right? And it's really amazing to see learners that are from non-technical background, because our programs are designed in such a way where we are able to teach a non-technical person how to do IoT. Can you believe that? Right? It's a drag and drop approach. It's a visual programming. It's low code to no code. So I was so amazed when my team was telling me, right, in a class full of technical people, I have one accountant. This one accountant passed any assessment that was done, and the one that did not pass or was struggling was a technical person, right? So you see that difference. It's very, very amazing to know how you do it. So the most important thing is the passion to learn. Whether you are engaged in a class, that's very, very important. And the facilitated approach really helps you to drive that kind of learning experience for the learners, right? And that's how I felt we managed the different expectations carefully. All right, so next question from Amir. Okay, what is SHRDC's approach to driving enrollment for the online program? Okay, we try not to push the program as like a direct online program where you can do self-paced, right? There are so many self-paced platforms out there. There are tons of them, right? And if our model is to compete with people like Coursera, or Udemy, that's not going to be very, very effective. So our model is always on facilitated, hands-on, technical, remote online training. It's always on a facilitated approach whereby you have a facilitator supporting you behind it. You have the equipment that you can directly interact with. You have the people or the community within that particular training within the next 4 to 6 days to support you in that learning experience. So it's going beyond self-paced, right? And we find that to be more value added because you are able to create more impact in a shorter span of time, right? It's a more dedicated learning approach. It's to keep people's motivation there. We don't want people to take a program, and then realize that, well, this is not really for me because I really don't understand what's going on and I don't have support, right? So having a facilitated approach drives that kind of passion for people to learn, right? It drives that kind of interaction. They don't feel that they are alone in this journey, right? And that would be our approach in terms of driving enrollment to a remote online training program. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Any other questions from the floor? All right. Oh, okay. Well, I guess if there's no questions, that's a poll that just popped up. All right. And you can probably you can still get in touch with me. My profile is still on the screen. Just connect with me on LinkedIn if you need to ask any questions. We are open for visitors, so you can come and drop by if you really want to see how we do remote online training. We are very, very happy to support the community, and we are very glad to work with OpenLearning on this journey. It's been, I think, a very, very long but fruitful and inspiring journey, I would say. A lot of things, goes back and forth between my team and the OpenLearning team, and we are always coming up with new ideas, to drive that kind of adoption of remote online training. And we really hope that it doesn't stop here, and we continue to innovate further moving forward. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining my session, and I hope you found this, interesting for you. And with that, I think that's all.